Hey Heal Squad, welcome back to another video. So I want to talk about centering yourself in marriage. I received 2 comments from 2 of my videos. One, the girls need FU money, and also why men benefit from you being a good girl. And so I'm gonna read the comments and then I'm going to talk about how you can center yourself in marriage. This is a conversation that I've seen on mostly on TikTok, so I wanted to bring it here. I even did a little research for y'all. Okay, so this comment says, your content is so beneficial. I'm very appreciative. Do you have any videos yet about making the transition from good girl to villain era inside a pre-existing marriage? I'm okay if my marriage ends and because I'm not a good girl anymore, but I'm okay if it changes and gets better too. I love to hear you speak on this. And then another Heal Squad member says, I love for you to do a video on building independence as a woman wife. Thank you for that content. So this is the thing. Many of us, right? Today I want to talk about something that's not discussed enough, right? It's not about divorce or leaving. It's not about becoming selfish. It's about remaining a whole woman when you become a wife. I was raised to be a wife and a mother. I grew up Church of God in Christ, which is Pentecostal, if you know what Pentecostal is. If you ever watch a Tyler Perry movie, and you see how the people be acting in the church, that's the type of church I went to, okay? Holy Ghost, right? You can't, what's the song? I can't think of the song now. You can't join in, you have to be born in. This is the Church of God in Christ. I love the Church of God in Christ. Okay, that's a church I grew up in. We had our own song, right? Okay, so being a wife and being a mother was esteemed over being an individual, right? I wasn't raised really as it relates to be an individual. I was raised to serve my family, serve my husband. But my values have changed around that, right? I believe in personhood. I believe that daughter is more important. Daughter of God is higher than wife and mother. And many of us have sacrificed being daughter, sacrificed being a whole woman, a whole person, for our family and for our marriage. So I want to talk about that, okay? I want to facilitate the conversation, but I want you to continue the conversation down below in the comments because I really enjoy getting to know you and talking to you, and I really enjoy the conversations that we have down below in the comments. And I run my comment section, so you talking to me, okay? Listen, many of us were taught to abandon ourselves. We were taught to place other people's needs above our own. And that can be very, I don't know if the word is disheartening. It could be, after a while, it just gets frustrating because nobody is caring for you the way that you're caring for others. And I believe that's why many women are having the conversation about decentering marriage and centering themselves. Sometimes marriages, and we have to be honest about even how the marriage began. I remember hearing a story of one woman. Her marriage involved a lot of drinking. And when she decided that she no longer wanted to engage in alcohol, it changed how she was showing up in her marriage. And her husband was upset about that. When I told you I did some research, I have a friend, a dear friend of mine who is going through this in her marriage, and her advice was, Samithia, they have to know their motive. They have to know the reason why they're making the decision to center themselves, why they're making the decision to build a life, because they're going to have to communicate that with their partner. And he may not understand it. There may be some agreements that was made in the beginning of your marriage. And I really believe, right, that marriages change because you evolve and you should grow with one another. And your husband should be excited about your evolution as a woman, and he should be supportive of it as well. Okay. We have learned to anticipate the needs of others. We have learned to accommodate others. Some of you have even learned how to shrink to be in a relationship. The magnitude of who you are has not even been displayed in the earth, because you know if you showed up as your full self, maybe you wouldn't have gotten that marriage or that relationship, okay? We've learned to nurture. We've learned to nurture in the response of bad behavior as well. We've learned to sacrifice. And while these skills can be beautiful in healthy relationships, they become dangerous when they are the only skills that you have. The only skills that you have. Many of us weren't giving additional skills. I'm reading the book Untamed, and she talked about living a life from her imagination versus living a life from her indoctrination. And many of us have been indoctrinated about what it is that men want and how we should show up as a wife. But I really believe that's a decision that you make and also your husband makes. I don't believe that's a decision that people on social media or people at your church or people in your family get to determine. There are many women that are being wives and they're not necessarily traditional. They're not stay-at-home moms. They have very wonderful careers. They are being very purposeful in their life, and that's very important that we also highlight that as an option as well. Okay. Let's see. Marriage is not supposed to cost you your personhood, and that's something that I talk about quite frequently here on the channel. That you should be able to be a whole person, a woman with hobbies, a woman with passion, a woman with interests, right? A woman with friendships. I've told this story before, but I remember meeting my friend Tia, and growing up the way I was raised, I was taught that single women couldn't be friends with married women. So I remember meeting Tia. She is my nail tech. She does my nails. I remember meeting her in 2024. And she also has her MSW, so we have the same education. And I remember just falling in love with her like that. Like I wanted to be her friend. Like we just had conversation and just flowed. We understood each other. You ever met somebody like, I have another friend, Brandy. Like that is like, I met her like, this is my friend. Like they just, soul sisters, right? And I was like, can we be friends? And she was like, yeah. Like, why are you asking that question? I said, because I was raised that, as a single woman, I could be. She was like, girl, I don't care about none of that. Like, we can be friends, but those were some of the things that I, in particular, was raised. I've even heard that online. Like, a single woman doesn't understand marriage. So once you get married, you drop your friends. But it's a double standard because men aren't expected to do the same thing. A man isn't expected for his life to change much when he gets married. He gets married and the woman's life changes and his doesn't. All right. And I think that's why this is so important. Okay. I want you to know that your husband should be important. Your children should be important, but they shouldn't be your entire identity. God gave you an identity before as daughter. Okay. Before wife and before sister, if you're a sister, and before mother. Your identity was daughter. You're a king's kid. Okay. For those of you that are Christian, you're a king's kid. You're a princess. All right. When your entire identity becomes a person, you create an impossible situation. Now your happiness depends on them. Your purpose depends on them. Your self-worth depends on them. So that means you being validated. This could create codependency in a relationship. Your mood depends on him. Your nervous system depends on him. If he's happy, you're happy. If he's not happy, then you're dysregulated. And this is something that we as women have to be very cognizant about, that in healthy relationships, you're not codependent, you're interdependent. And in some aspects, you may still be independent. There may be some things that are just your thing and you do them. I plan on, I want to have a garden, right? My future husband may be like, Smithy, I don't want to go out and garden. Okay, that's not what I want to do. I'll cut the grass. I'll lift and carry the stuff for you. But I'm not picking no weeds out of your garden. You know what I'm saying? He may be like, babe, I don't want to do that. I'll be like, well, I'll buy you some cute gloves. No, I don't want to do that. Flip side, right? He may have a thing for sports cars. Now, I do like some fast cars. I do like some fast cars. But he may be interested in tweaking them and all that stuff. I don't want to do that. I don't like no, you got to change the oil? Oh, no, baby, you got it. I'll bring you some water, but I don't want to. You know what? I don't want to learn how to do that. I'm good. I just learned, real life story, I just learned how to check my oil last year. Sure did, last year. Only because I was having some issues with my car. And the technician was like, you need to be able to check your oil. Okay? You driving around here, you have no oil in your car. That can lock up your engine. I'm like, man, I don't want to do that. Okay? But anyway, that's a whole lot of responsibility to be placed on a human being. A lot of times, most of us, let me say this, most of us were taught essentially to treat our husband as if he was a mini God. So he becomes our source, right? He becomes our everything. And that can be very dangerous when you see a person like that. First of all, you're making him an idol when he shouldn't be. He's your partner in this thing called life, all right? Healthy marriages are not built from one whole person and one disappearing person. And many of us were taught that when you get in a relationship as a woman, you are supposed to disappear. I said this before. It's like I was raised to have a purpose, and then when I get married, my purpose no longer matters. It's my husband's purpose. And I made a decision long ago that I wasn't going to shrink back from who it is that God called and created me to be. I am supposed to be on here talking to you in this manner. Why? Because this is a part of my purpose. This is a part of me talking to women, helping women heal, educating women, being a sounding board for women, being a confidant for women. That is who I am. And even when I get married, that is something that I still am intentional about doing. Now, will there be some change when I get married? Yeah. But Healed the New Sexy is not one of them. It's not something I'm going to negotiate about. Healthy marriages are built from two people choosing each other. Now, let me say this, because as a therapist, sometimes I used to do couples therapy. I don't do couples therapy anymore. And even before I was, let me go back. When I didn't have children, right? I only have a child. But when I didn't have a child, I remember doing therapy, and the person asked and giving them the information, the person being like, well, do you have kids? Because you don't know how it is. And it's like, okay, I don't have children. But the fact that I'm in my life means the fact that I'm in your life is an indication that even though I don't have children and you have children, you ain't doing this right. Okay. So let me say this, because as women, again, oxymoron, you are taught, the man that findeth the wife, findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor. That means you got to be a wife before that man finds you. But when a single woman comes online and she talks about marriage, all of a sudden she need to be quiet because she's never been married. Make it make sense. What y'all? Whoa. Okay. All right. And okay. Okay. I wish I could roll my tongue like Cardi, but I can't. Okay. So healthy marriages are built on two people choosing each other. The goal isn't to lose yourself in love. The goal is to remain yourself while loving deeply and being deeply loved. All right. That's the goal. Not to lose yourself, not to shrink, not to disappear, but we're in this thing and we're loving on each other. We're making each other's lives easier. We are happy together. We're building a life together. We are satisfied with each other. We are, maybe I wish I was a couple, because maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like it should be good. Now I have to disappear. Okay. Now I've also heard this as well from our Christian girlies. Now I know there's women of other faith here, and you are always welcome, okay? But you may have heard this in the internet streets too. Like there's this saying that marriage is supposed to make you holy. It's not supposed to make you happy. I don't believe that. So a lot of this stuff, because it's really targeted towards women, it's targeted towards you shrinking, dying. It's targeted towards you disappearing. It's targeted towards you not having a voice, not having a say in your marriage and ultimately in your life. It allows you to be easily controlled. I even hear women saying, I want to turn my brain off. I can't. Now, if that's what you're doing in your marriage, cool. Okay. But you have to be, I want you to wonder why you want to do that. Why do you want to turn your brain off? Why don't you want to be a very present partner in your marriage? Okay. So let's talk about some signs that you may have lost yourself in marriage. 1, you feel guilty doing things without your husband or without your children. Every time you spend money on yourself, take a trip, go out with friends, pursue a hobby, you feel guilty. As though your life must always revolve around the relationship or you being a mother. I know there was a time in my life where I was just buying for my son, and I would go to my closet and there would be nothing there like for me to truly wear that I felt beautiful in. And I think as a wife and as a mother, you have an obligation to truly take care, even if your husband is the bestest husband in the world, which I know you have. You have a responsibility to take care of yourself. You really, really do. And not in a hyper independent way, but you go shopping. You make sure your nails are done, your hair's done. You go exercise. You know, there are some women, I remember a young lady I was working with, she was like, I'm just taking these kids everywhere. I don't have time for myself. You have to create time for yourself, because this is the thing. The body that you're in is the body that you're going to live in for the rest of your life. Whether it's your mental health or your physical health, take care of it. Don't sacrifice it. Okay. Don't sacrifice your mental health or your physical health. Sign number 2, you don't know what brings you joy anymore. You know what your husband enjoys, you know what your children enjoy, but you stopped exploring your own interest. You stopped. You have to get back to that. Sign number 3, every decision is filtered through everyone else. Before you ask what you want, you ask, what would they think? How would this affect them? Would they approve? Your needs are always last in line. So you put everyone else before you. And in the society we live in, we are praised for this. We're praised for being sacrificing. We're praised for being overlooked. We're praised for, it's like you get a badge of honor, but you're dishonoring yourself. You're dishonoring yourself in order to be honored. No more of that. Sign number 4, you feel resentful. This is the one that nobody wants to talk about. Women often believe resentment means they don't love their spouse enough or they don't love their children enough. Sometimes resentment means you abandon yourself for too long, because every unspoken need eventually becomes a bill, and resentment is often the invoice because it's due. Your due respect, your due care, your due consideration, your due kindness, your due attention. Many women have a lot going on: emotional labor, physical labor, invisible labor, perimenopause, menopause, menopause, your postpartum. You have all of these things going on. You need care. And quite often you're looking around and everybody, I told a client this one time before, I said, you don't have a good marriage. But your husband, he has a great marriage. And when you go and talk to him about the marriage that you're having, because you are showing up for him, he doesn't understand why you have an issue. But it's because you are showing up for him. You are articulating your displeasure, but he's like, everything is good. Because you taught him that he doesn't have to be responsive to your needs. And that's why he's ultimately confused with why there are issues in the marriage. And many women haven't been taught that. You've been taught to silence your voice. You've been taught not to speak up for yourself. You've been taught those things. And so even in courting and dating and marriage, you're not honest. You're not truthful about what it is that you need and want and what you desire. Okay? I want you to know that centering yourself is not selfish. Women ask me all the time, if I start censoring myself, am I being selfish? And the answer is no. Self-centered and self-focused are not the same thing. A self-centered person only believes that their needs matter. A self-focused person understands that their needs matter too, as well, in addition. Okay? All right? Those are very two different things. I can't be healthy for my son if I'm not healthy for me. Many of you are giving from a place that is dry. It's tapped out. It's like the Sahara Desert. There's nothing there. And you are pulling from that place. You're over functioning. And then you're trying to figure out why you're exhausted, you're tired, you're burned out, your health is declining. You can't lose weight. It's because you're pulling and giving, okay? The healthiest women I know have lives outside of their relationships. They have interests, friendships, goals, purposes, dreams that they're going after, that they're actively pursuing. And because they are fulfilled individuals, they bring more to the relationship, not less. So let's talk about how you can center yourself again. One, especially if you're married, right? Or if you're in a relationship and you're watching this, I want you to get very clear. Get curious about yourself. Ask yourself questions you haven't asked in years. What excites me? What interests me? What would I pursue if nobody judged me? What do I want my next chapter to look like? What have I let go of that brought me joy? When did I first start abandoning myself? What beliefs are on the inside of me in my subconscious that I'm living from? And where did they come from? Is that person a dependable source? Some of us learn about relationships and marriages from unhealthy people. And so now we are taking that blueprint and living our life, and we really are poisoning our own relationship and ourselves, okay? 2, build something that's yours, not your husband's, not your children's, yours. A business, a hobby, a fitness goal, a creative project, a degree, a ministry, something that reminds you that your life is still unfolding, because it is. 3, stop asking for permission to exist. Many women are waiting for someone to validate their desires. You don't need permission to take up space. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need permission to evolve. I remember growing up, and even as it relates to women who decided to become more serious with their walk with Christ, sometimes it caused conflict because the values changed. And we have to be honest about that when we're having conversations up front, that our conversations and dating, that our values may change, but how do we still remain in the marriage, in the relationship, even though our values may change? The TikToker's value around alcohol changed, and it impacted her relationship, and her husband had to do his own work in order to see her differently and be able to experience her as a woman who didn't want her life to be centered around drinking. Okay? It's important to maintain relationships outside of your marriage. Your community matters, whether it's from people at work, people at church, you're in a sorority, college friends, childhood friends, right? Friendship matters, connection matters. Your spouse, right, should be a significant part of your support system, but not your entire support system. And one thing I know, especially as a therapist, is that I work with women who, because of the situations, the trauma that they went through, their partner is not a support. And the reason why they aren't a support, because they don't feel comfortable sharing what happened to them. They feel a lot of guilt, they feel a lot of shame, and they're not open, and I support it, in sharing this information. And so as it relates to their healing journey, it may not be their husband supporting them in it. It may be a close friend, a close family member who knows and is familiar, or some of them go through it and it's just me. I'm the only one that knows that in the Lord, I'm the only one knows that this painful thing happened to them, okay? And then revisit your personal vision before you got married. Now, I know someone were like, Smithy, I just want to be a wife and a mother, and that's okay too. That's okay too, okay? I don't want anyone to feel shamed about their life decisions, but I want you to be confident in the life decisions that you're making. That's it, okay? So revisit your personal vision. What do you want your life to feel like? Not your marriage, your life. Who is it that you want to be? How do you want to show up? Because you are a woman before you are anyone's wife, all right? So let's talk about this. There's an irony that many women are kind of fearful about, is that sometimes the marriage improves. Often it doesn't. Many women fear that centering themselves will damage their marriage, but the opposite happens. Because people are attracted to people who are alive, who are vibrant, who are passionate about life. They're attracted to that. People are attracted to people who have purpose. When you reconnect with yourself, you bring a new energy into the relationship. You are able to introduce your new self. And I really believe that a role of a husband, if from husband comes the word husbandry, right? And husbandry has to do with cultivate. A part of your husband's job is to cultivate you. And so when you make this decision that you want to reevaluate your values, your beliefs, and how you show up in your life, a healthy husband is going to be ready to do the work to walk alongside you as you begin to cultivate yourself, and as you begin to grow, and as you begin to explore in a healthy way. All right. This means you become less resentful, maybe less depressed, less depleted. You're more energized. You may lose that weight that you've been trying to lose. Your nervous system is regulated. Maybe you were very pessimistic, but you no longer are, because you're doing the work to be you. All of you, a whole woman. All right. So if you've been feeling lost in your marriage, I want you to hear me clearly. You do not have to choose between being a good wife and being yourself. They are not opposing goals. The healthiest marriages are not built on self-erasure. They are built on two people who are committed to becoming. Two people committed to becoming. All right. I want to talk to you down below if you're a wife, or if you're in a long-term relationship, or maybe like Smithy, I'm a single woman, but this has been something that I have been thinking about. And I want to ensure that when I get married, or when I'm dating and I'm exclusive, that I have this conversation. Okay. and I'm able to articulate what it is that I want, how I imagine myself showing up as a wife. And I want to be very clear about that. But I also am really interested in hearing about him and how he plans on showing up as a husband, especially how he plans to cultivate me as a wife, because that's one of his roles. All right. This is Heal the New Sexy. My name is Smithia.